right, the big theme that we are discussing today is the unlock theme. Demand has come back in a big way. COVID cases, of course, are reducing. They continue to spike up, but overall, you get a sense that, cities are opening up and people are coming back to spend. We speak with Crompton Consumer, that's a big manufacturer of fans, home appliances and LED lights, to find out if indeed demand has returned. Mathew, the CEO of Crompton Greaves Consumer Electricals, joins us now to talk about that. Mathew, good morning and thanks for being with us. The narrative now is that demand has come back. It's better than the preceding months, but nobody knows whether it's going to sustain. What is the situation at your end?
Yeah, that is true. When the country went into lockdown somewhere in the mid of March and throughout April, of course, demand had almost reached zero because all the markets were closed. But with unlocking starting to happen from May, I would say in May that the demand was roughly 60% for us of last year level, whereas in June and July that has come closer to 90% of last year level. So, but in a normative year, we will be 10% up on last year. So if you look at it from that perspective, it is still about 15% below what you would normally expect. The other thing is the demand revival is not secular. As the markets go into intermittent lockdown and opening up, the demand tends to ebb, and flow. But I would say in terms of the underlying demand, we have seen that when the market starts to open up, the demand comes back almost immediately. So I would say, if I look at what we estimated 3 months ago, I think the revival in demand has been sooner and faster than what we had anticipated.
How have been the first 2 weeks of August?
I would say very similar to the last 2 months, June and July. I would say we are still marginally behind last year's level in terms of what we see the demand. And we have 3 levels of data only till June, which is our primary sales, the sales of our distributors to the retailers, and also the tertiary offtake, as measured through third-party audit. That data is there only till June. So till June, all the 3 are following a very similar trend. As I mentioned, April was almost nil, May was 60%, June 90-95%, and our own primary offtakes in the month of July and August following a very similar pattern to June. So I would say marginally below still last year.
Give us some regional color which we can extrapolate to other regions. For instance, the 3 big cities of Delhi, Bombay and Ahmedabad have been showing a flattening of the curve. So is it that in those places you are seeing any secular rise, any regional color that you can give us? Yeah,
I would say there is a very strong correlation between the time the market is spent in lockdown and the way the demand is, has played out over the last 4 months. If I look at the last 4 months, the region, at least in our business, which was worst impacted was West, and that's because you see all the key cities, as you mentioned, in Mumbai, in Ahmedabad or Pune, a lot of the market remained under lockdown. So if I look at the first quarter, that was the region which was worst hit. Now, as Mumbai and Ahmedabad slowly start, and the COVID curve is flattening out, we do see that the gap in terms of revival of demand between West and the other regions is actually starting to narrow. But at the same time, I would say, for example, in Eastern region, in the months of June and July, we had a lot of markets under lockdown, for example, all of Bihar, parts of West Bengal. So that's why I mentioned it's not a secular trend. And there's a very strong correlation between the way demand is coming back and the time the market is spending in lockdown.
Okay, I have to ask you what's happening with the home appliances segment, especially the food preparation segment. You have mixer grinders, juicers, food processors. I understand that during the heat of the lockdown, there would have been a spike up in sales because a lot more people were cooking at home. There was no staff. But now that things have unlocked, do you think this demand surge in this particular segment may not be sustainable?
Yeah, I think the demand has been strong in many parts of the appliances segment, and some in which we play. For example, what you correctly mentioned as a cooking segment, I think has seen strong demand. We also, while there are other segments like home, like the personal grooming in which we have not played, also the reported demand has been pretty strong in the last couple of months. The question, going forward, do we expect that this demand will start to come down? There could be some level of plateauing off, but I think a lot of the stuff is in terms of the way demand is played out. I would think that some of it is likely to sustain for a reasonable period of time, and I don't expect these markets to suddenly go back and start to go down to normative levels. So we have a positive outlook on most of the appliances segments for the months to come.
Matthew, can you give us some color on what kind of products people are preferring? Is there a consumer down trading at all?
Surprisingly, if I look at most of the segments we play in, surprisingly, not anything significant. Let me take, for example, the fan segment. In the month of May, when the market started to open up, we saw a significantly enhanced demand, for example, for part of the fans category, which is table, pedestal, and wall. And that's primarily table and pedestal because of a lot of makeshift structures coming up, especially for medical care of people who contracted COVID. A lot of makeshift hospitals coming up. To that extent, there was a short-term, acceleration in demand for certain categories. But the surprising thing is, we don't see, for example, if you ask me, is the demand for premium fans going down? If I look at all the trends that are available, including third-party data for the first quarter, premium fans, market growth, of course, market is not growing. But if I compare with the other segments, there is no significant down trading at all, which is quite against what we thought could happen.
Okay. Another segment that you cater to, and I didn't know this actually, I just got to know that you make pumps as well, especially agricultural pumps and residential pumps too. But particularly in agricultural pumps, have you seen a surge in demand? What percentage of your business comes from there, and what could the opportunities be?
See, roughly 20% of our business comes from agricultural pumps. And the agricultural pumps got a very strong correlation to the way the monsoon plays out. So when you have very heavy monsoon, the demand does go down. So the best kind of situation for us for demand of agricultural pumps is when there is a more sustained monsoon rather than a lot of monsoon in a short period of time. If I look at the first quarter in terms of overall pumps, we saw the demand was again in fact, the two categories where I saw demand coming back fastest is actually in fans and pumps. Because of obvious reasons. This is the peak period. Quarter one is peak period for fans and pumps. That's when most people who need to buy these products buy them. So the demand came back pretty quickly. And agricultural pumps, I would say, has been at normative levels. I don't see any significant difference in terms of how demand has come back for residential and agricultural.
Okay. I have two quick questions, Matthew. How will margins pan out?
If I look at the first quarter, and I would try to differentiate between how the industry has performed and how we have performed, there has been significant pricing pressure in quarter one because of the fact that the market is down. No? While I say demand has come back, we must realize that most companies in our industry, their top line contracted by roughly 40%. So obviously there is a lot more players fighting for a smaller pie. So a lot of companies, in fact, almost every company saw a contraction of margins right from the gross margin level all the way down to EBIT and profit before tax or profit after tax. In our case, I think we were very clear with the way we wanted to manage. We did not want to engage in a price war. So we have only wherever we had faced pricing pressures, we managed that through limited tactical interventions. So if I look at our own margin structure, in the quarter one, it has remained intact at every level. So if I look at gross margins, if I look at EBIT, if I look at PAT, at all levels, our profitability has been maintained. In fact, we are the only company in the industry which has managed to hold its structural profitability despite a 40 to 45% decline in revenues.
Okay. So you'll keep your margins. Okay. We would have liked to go on, but we are out of time. We'll come back and speak on another day with you. Thank you very much, Mathew, for joining us. So relatively a positive conversation that, with the unlock, the demand or the sales is almost 90% of what it was last July. We are still not growing, but at least the degrowth is getting less. We take a break on that note and we come to another difficult industry, the luggage industry. Joining us now will be Dilip Piramal, the chairman of VIP, in just a minute.